Kei aku rahi aku iti tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, whakarauika mai. Ki roto I tēnei whare ako aipurangi o aku panuku. Tēnei mātou o aku panuku e mihi atu nei ki a koutou. Kia tātou katoa e noho taratahi nei. E noho motu nei roto I o tātou kāinga I tēnei pito, I tēnā pito o te motu. Ako tātou katoa e tangi tonu nei, e mihi tonu nei, e poroporo aki tonu nei ngā kōiwi matariki. Kua riro, ko whetūrangi tia I roto I ngā wiki kua taha. Kua mau rātou te ringa o mate o Aitua. Tuku nā rātou kia haere, ngā roimata kia rere, te hupe kia heke, tangia mihia poroporo aki hia. Heoi, mā tātou te hunga ora e whakakiki I ngā whārua ko waiho mai e rātou. Mā tātua no te ara e para, kia ora tonu ai tō tātou reo Māori me o tātou tikanga. Nō reira, me kaha tonu tātou I roto I ngā tūāhuatanga katoa o tēnei wā pōrahurahu, ngā pāhekeheketanga o te wā meki. Tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā koe.
So welcome everyone to this Ako Panuku Live webinar. Due to the challenges of our current time, we're moving all of our workshops for this term to an online format. And it has been exciting to kick things off with webinars on induction and mentoring. Ko te aorangi Murphy Fell, taku ingoa, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. So if you have any problems during the webinar, please drop me a message to the chat function, or if for any reason you drop off and you can't get back in, the Ako Panuku phone number is in the chat box. So please note this down. It's my pleasure to welcome two of our experienced Ako Panuku facilitators, Lynette Bradnam and Beth Dixon. Many of you will have already met Beth and Lynette in previous forum. Beth has been working with Ako Panuku PCTs for several years now, and Lynette has been our key facilitator for leadership support. Both have many years of experience in supporting new and experienced kaiako through pre-service and in-service teacher programs. So, without any further delay, nau mai haere mai kōrua, kei a kōrua.
Tēnā koe te aorani. Mihi tēnei ki a koe me au kupu I tuku nātu ki te wāhinaro I te tuatahi. O tira ki nā mate kua rere ki tua o pairau I roto I enei rani, I enei wiki, o tira I enei marama. I tika ana kia tani hia rātou, kia mihi a rātou. He tika hoki tāu, kei konei me ki tātou, nā mahuetana. Ko te tūmanako ka whai atu I o rātou tapu wai, kia tū whakahihi tonu rātou I wā mātou mahi. Nō reira he mihi tēnei ki a koe, o tira ki a tātou, tēnā rā koutou katoa, koutou kua tau mai ki tēnei wānana o tātou I tēnei rangi. He rawe wā mātou kōrero I tērā wiki I te taite. Nō reira, he mihi tēnei ki a koutou. Koe whakawātea hia mai koutou I tēnei rangi. Kia hui tahi, kia kōrero tahi, me māua ko Lynette. Ko Beth Dixon taku ingoa, he uri tēnei no nai tūhoi, no nā tika hununu, no nai tahu anō hoki. Nō reira tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou.
He mihi mahana ki a koutou I tēnei ahiahi. Ko Lynette Bradnam tōku ingoa, he uri ahau o Ngāti Kahungunu Rangitāne Kaitahu hoki. He tino, he wā tino ua etahi o ngā wā. Engari, I tēnei rā, he rangi pai. So, kei te tino hari koa hau ki te kōrero rero ki te taha o tōku hoa Beth. E pāna ki tēnei mahi Induction and Mentoring. So just before we get started, a little reminder about the outcomes of this hui. So as you will have seen already in the explanation, the aim is for you to gain a better understanding of induction and mentoring in general, and also know some of the key fundamentals of a robust induction and mentoring program. That's our goal for today. So let's begin. So he pātai tuatahi, Beth, we're talking about induction and mentoring today, and I understand we have both PCs and mentors joining us today in our wānanga. So maybe you could share with us what your understanding of induction and mentoring is, and could you give us a bit of a general overview or explanation?
Well, kia ora tātou, ki ngā kai ako hou, o tira ki ngā kai hāpai anō hoki, nau mai. So if we were to define induction and mentoring, induction basically is a formal introduction, and mentoring is to advise and train. And funnily enough, in the past, the induction and mentoring program has been named advice and guidance, which I think is really important, because that's exactly what we're talking about as an advice and guidance program. When we talk about it as induction as being a formal introduction, it's basically that, a formal introduction of our new kaiako into, first and foremost, their new kura, if it's new to them, but more on a wider scale is to the profession. We're introducing them to their teaching profession, the profession that they've committed to, and so it's really important as mentors that we explain and guide them through what this profession is all about. They're no longer just an individual, they're part of a collective now, and so that's really important to get that message across, that induction and mentoring is not just about what happens in the kura, but on a bigger scale, what happens as part of a profession. Within the kura though, it's the relationship. It's the relationship between the new kaiako, the mentor, and the leader of the kura. And there needs to be a good line of communication between the three of them. So when we think about the kupu kai hapai, for example, which is the one that I use for a mentor, we think about the kupu hapai, it's defined as being support, and to uplift and help and assist. So when we think about that in a mentoring and induction program, we're talking about not just one person supporting another, that is the mentor and to support the kaiako, but actually a mutual support system, a reciprocal support system. Because the PCT has a role in supporting the mentor as well, because generally our mentors are quite busy people. They're generally in some kind of management position, or they're a leader of the school, and so they have their own responsibilities as well as having to support. So it's really important that our kaiako are really proactive in seeking support rather than waiting for it to come to them. And this relationship, I think, is really important to say here, that it should be worked on and built on and reviewed regularly, and built on values that we find that we deem very important as Māori, and some of those values are discussed in tātai ako, and they're also discussed in te hapai o, which is the guidelines written for Māori medium settings. Values such as manaakitanga, a relationship of trust and honesty, values such as ako in the classroom practice, but not just in the classroom, outside of the classroom as well, into the hapori as well. Wānanga, that line of communication, feeling safe enough to have a line of communication, be able to say what you want to say and to really get into the nitty-gritty of things, having solution-focused discussions. Whanaungatanga, that's another one, and the connections that we build when we build this relationship, and of course tangata whenuatanga, and the awareness of their demographic and the setting that the school is standing in. So I think, that's my overview. It's the kind of big picture of what induction and mentoring is to me. Kia ora.
Yeah, the relationship is key, I guess, and as in all relationships, we have to work on them all the time and remind each other of those core values for it to work really well. Kia ora, Beth.
Kia ora.
There are some things that professionally certificated teachers are entitled to as part of their Induction and Mentoring program. Could you outline for us what those things are?
He pātai pai tēnā, and there are some entitlements, things that our kaiako hou are entitled to have as part of their first 2 years of induction and mentoring. And let's remember that they have up to 6 years to gain full certification. And that's for a number of reasons. But the Teaching Council outlines what these entitlements are in the guideline booklets, and each of the participants today have been sent a slideshow, and they'll see some images of those covers of those books in the slideshow. First and foremost, they're entitled to have a mentor, a person or a teacher that is fully registered and on site. So when I say on site, I mean in their kura. Someone who will meet regularly with them, not just at the photocopier, just to ask, kei te pēhea koe i tēnei rangi, ka pai, okay, ka pai. I mean more robust, times for robust discussions to sit down, and those discussions should be about what's happening in the classroom, their practice, and how they're helping to better the outcomes for their students. There's some unwritten guidelines too that, and a question has always been, how many mentors can I have? And I encourage the kaiako I work with to have as many mentors as they want. Some of our teachers are HODs. Yes, brand new teachers are HODs in big secondary schools. Some are, and so of course, as part of their HOD position, they need some support in understanding that position, how to lead a curriculum area, how to budget. And so their mentor that's in school may not necessarily have the expertise they need for that. So go and seek another person to help them with that. But regardless of how many mentors you have, whether it be your dad, your mum, whether it be Nan, your grower who speaks on the pai, however many you have, you must have one person in your kura that is fully registered and on site. The second thing they're entitled to is release time. And so for a first year PCT, that's equivalent to 0.2 of a week, a full day. And a PCT2 second year, they are entitled to 0.1, which is equal to 1 day per week. And that can be set up in many different ways. Lots of kaiako will tell me, well, I don't get a full day. I get blocks throughout the week. But if you add those blocks up, they will ideally equate to one full day. I've heard of some teachers that get one morning at one end of the week, and they might get an afternoon at the other end of the week, or vice versa. And then we have those lucky ones that do get a full block, a full day per week, or a full morning per week, where they can really focus in and concentrate on their PCT requirements, because that's what the release time is used for. It's not used for, going and relieving another teacher, or going and helping someone make resources. It's actually supposed to be designated for the PCT requirements. So those things could be curating their evidence, sifting through evidence to find the best possible piece of evidence to include in their portfolio. It might be getting up to scratch with their planning. It might be getting up to scratch with writing up some reflections. whatever it's used for, or whatever they might be doing, it must be around the PCT requirements.
Just before you go into the observation part, Beth, could you just clarify the time for a PCT 1 and a PCT 2, how much time they get?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, 0.2 of a week, which equates to 1 full day, and 0.1 for a second year, which equates to half a day per week, every week.
Kia ora.
But it's important, like I said, it's important that that is discussed with the mentor and the tūmwaki as well, that the mentor has a discussion with the tūmwaki to really kind of plan that out and make sure that it's set and in place for that kaiako right at the beginning of the year. I do kind of, think that it's important for it to be regularly reviewed, that both kaiako and mentors sit together and review that release time. And what I mean by that is perhaps they get a full day at the beginning of the year for a whole term. But then once they get into their rhythm, once they get into, they get their mojo and they start, they know their classroom, they're really getting to know their students and have got a good rhythm going with their students, then maybe that could change. Maybe it could become a morning and then an afternoon. Just depends on what the needs are of that kaiako. I'm not saying go out and change it. I'm just saying, have that discussion, review it, and go from there. The third thing they're entitled to is observations, and it's a requirement that they have at least 2 to 3 annually. Again, these should be discussed and agreed on. Whatever's going to be observed must be agreed on by both the mentor and the kaiakos. So, for example, I might want you, Lynette, to come and observe me introducing a brand new reo strategy to my students, and how I do that, the reo I do, the reo I use. Is it clear? Is it quick? Could you see that the students understood what was being explained? And it may only take 5 to 10 minutes, but that's the observation. It's not for the mentor or whoever's doing the observing to come in without the kaiako knowing. There should be no surprises. And the time limit and what will be observed must be agreed on as well. There's no point for that person to stay any longer than 10 minutes if that's all it's going to take. After the fact, after the observation, ideally they get to sit and have a discussion about that, and the kaiako is given some verbal feedback. As well as that, the verbal feedback should then be produced in writing, signed and dated, and that should be put straight away into their portfolio. And yeah, there should be some follow-up with feedback. So whether it's verbal, well, both verbal and written feedback should then be followed up. Maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, hey, how are you doing? Has my feedback and helped you to do what you needed to do quicker, or has it improved? Have that conversation. Doesn't need to be a long conversation, but it needs to be followed up. So that's observations. And then finally, professional learning and development. Our kaiako are entitled to professional learning and development. Otherwise, how do they grow and develop as a professional and as a kaiako? But again, this needs to be planned for. And ideally, the PLD that they plan for should be linked to the goals the professional goals that the kaiako set for themselves at the beginning of the year. Otherwise, why are they going to these workshops? Why are they following these clusters? Why are they following these people on Twitter? it's, you know, it needs to have an alignment to what they're working towards as a teacher. And ideally, there's an annual plan set up between the mentor and the PCT, where each term they can say, look, I've done a bit of research, I see that in term 3 there's a conference, the Huia Tau Whakopanuku, for example, is going to be in term 3, and I'd really like to go to that. It's a 2-day thing. I'd like to plug that in now. And they register. That might be done back in, say, the end of term 1 or term 2, but it's planned for. And so, you know, they might have a workshop per term, they might have cluster meetings per term, they might do professional readings per term, but as long as there's a balance of PLD and different types of learning planned for, that should set the requirement in place nicely. So that's what I think, that's what is set out in the guidelines as being entitlements for our kaiako hou.
Great. Wow. There's a lot to consider, isn't there, and get organised for the development of your portfolio. So that's great description. Thank you. Along with all those non-negotiables, is there anything else you think should be highlighted or discussed further as part of an induction and mentoring program?
Yeah. As part of the slideshow, I also included a screenshot of a program overview that's been developed through Akupanuku. At the top of that overview, our participants, our kaiako, will see that there's a place for developing your vision, and there's also a place for the kura strategic goals. Now, they're not necessarily talked about or discussed in the guidelines from the Teaching Council, but I do think they're extremely important, that and that should be part of an induction and mentoring program. As soon as the kaiako, or even prior to turning up at the kura, there should be some background research about the kura itself and the kura that you are going to be joining. You know, I like to think that we don't go to a hui at a marae and we don't do any kind of background research about A, what the hui is going to be about, but B, most importantly, the marae itself, who the tangata whenua are, where is the marae standing, which rohe does it stand in, what's its kawa, what are the tikanga that we need to follow. When we get to the waharua, who's the kaikarana, who are going to be the kai kōrero, who's holding the koha, all those sorts of things we do naturally when we go to a marae. And for me, it's the same as a PCT, a brand new teacher going to their kura. Whether they've been a student teacher there before or not, in their new role as a kaiako, there's going to be things that they need to learn about. And to me, it's really important for the mentor to support them in getting to know more about their kura and their role in their kura. So in our workshops, we talk about, you know, what's your vision? What was your vision for coming in to, you know, why did you become a teacher? Why this career? And we start talking about their vision, which is future focused, of course. So, like, you know, might ask them, what do you want to do? What's your goal for the next 2 years? Your career goal, be registered. Kapai, 3 to 5 years, what then? What's your vision? What do you hope to achieve and do for your tamariki in the next 10 years? And a lot of our kaiako haven't necessarily been asked that question. So it takes them aback. It sort of is a bit of a surprise for them. But when we start talking about it and the reasons why they became teachers, they can see, oh no, I kind of did have a clear vision about what it is I want to achieve here and what I want to do for our tamariki. The kura strategic goals, that can be found in the charter, but not all of our kaiako have had access to that charter prior or when they enter the kura. So that's one of the first things I ask them to do, is to find the charter, read it, find out what the kura is working towards. What's the kura vision? What's the kura mission? What is the goal for this year? What are their goals for the next 3 to 5 years? And then to think about, as a PCT or as a brand new kaiako to this kura, what's my role? What's my contribution to assisting and supporting my kura in achieving those goals? Some of our kaiako might be, you know, teaching year 3 or year 5, and they may think, oh, you know, what can I do to achieve this graduate profile, or this goal for te reo Māori, or this goal for literacy, when our kura goes to year 8 and year 13. I'm just a little year 3 teacher or year 4 teacher, but my message is actually you have a huge role to play in that, huge role. So that's what I think is really important, that isn't an entitlement, or it isn't something that's written in the guidelines, but it's something for us to think about when we're working with brand new teachers, is to help them to understand and know their kura really well.
And I guess that, you know, when you're in a school, you really want to know what you're contributing towards in terms of the progress of your kura. And so by knowing the goals of the kura, you can start to think about what your contribution will be to the school, realizing those goals. So yeah, it's really important. Ka pai. So I believe you've created a resource that captures all of this in an overview of a strong induction and mentoring program. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So the resource is the one that I just mentioned. There's a screenshot in one of the slideshow, and it's just called Induction and Mentoring Program. I developed it based on the things that we've talked about, to capture all of those things. The the kaiako vision, their vision for their career, and also the kura strategic goals, because I feel like the entitlements need to hang off something. They need to link to something, and a lot of the areas that are discussed in the overview all kind of link to each other. They all link to each other. So when a kaiako kind of, you know, starts to think about what their vision is, starts to create a vision statement, that should really lead everything that happens underneath. I kind of see this overview as a contents page to a chapter book. And we know that when we open a chapter book, the first page is the contents. In chapter 1, we've got this, chapter 2, this, chapter 3. And just like chapters in a book, they all lead on to each other. And it's the same with the overview for me. It's been designed like that so that you can see how everything kind of aligns to each other. The vision should set the scene for me. It should set the scene. What are you working towards? What's your hopes? What are your hopes and aspirations for you in this profession? The kura strategic goals should then also align and link to your own professional goals. Whatever the kura is working towards, there should be some link as to your professional goal and how it contributes to those goals, the wider goals of the kura. So the resource is shared with our kaiako at workshops, and whether they're using an e-portfolio to gather evidence or a normal hard copy folder, it should be used in the same way, that the first page is the overview. When you open the folder, you'll see that, and then everything that comes underneath it relates to that overview. You can see at a glance what you will expect to see throughout the whole folder. Now that's for a hard copy. You can open it, you can, you know, see all the way through. An e-portfolio or an e-folder, that would be the first thing that you would see when you go into a Google folder, whatever platform they're using for their e-portfolio. And so the beauty of an e-portfolio is, instead of having a whole lot of documents all, you know, filed underneath, you can just add links to that overview, to that contents page, to the correct area. So when somebody clicks in to have a look at your folder, they can click the link and it'll take you to a document that outlines your professional goals. Or they might click on your vision, and it'll take you to a document that outlines your professional vision. It's not supposed to be onerous or difficult to fill in. It just outlines what somebody, the mentor or the tūmwaki, should see in your folder. It's basically all it is.
Ka pai. So we have had a question in these changing times about whether what PCTs are doing now is going to be able to contribute well to their portfolio. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts are yes. My thoughts are yes. He pāpai pai tērā. That question came in a few days ago, and I've contacted the Teaching Council about that, and I will follow up with them. But until we hear from them, my answer would be absolutely. I can't understand why it wouldn't. Kaiako in the last 2 weeks have been working so hard, even though it was supposed to be their holiday time. Let's face it, our kaiako out there have been working extremely hard to try and get themselves prepared to start to deliver online. Whether they've had a holiday or not, I don't know. But and there would have been some discussions at Kura before we broke up for Alert Level 4. I'm assuming that there would have been discussions with staff about what platforms might be used, whether or not they had data on which families may not have internet or devices, and so what they were going to do for that, whether they were going to create resource packs and send them home. There would have been all sorts of discussions going on, and that in itself, those discussions, those staff discussions, actually align to a number of our standards for the teaching profession. You could easily tag the Treaty of Waitangi to that, mainly because at the forefront, Kura tūmwaki kaiako were thinking of whānau and the community. So that in itself is a link to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Professional relationships, that's another one of our standards that could align to those discussions that would have been had. And if our kaiako had documented those discussions, if they'd kept minutes, notes, if the mentor and the PCT had a discussion after the big discussion to sort of think about, okay, what will we do? How will you do it? Those sorts. Those are priceless in terms of evidence of what they were going to do in such an unprecedented time. So if they have been documenting everything that they've been doing, if they've been writing plans, if they've been developing resources, if they've been developing some lessons online, if they've been delivering those lessons online, then I can't understand why nothing would count, would matter. My mind, absolutely, because it's our everyday practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also hear at this time that we're currently going through that it's unprecedented and uncertain. Do you think that our PCTs can gain any benefits from this time?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's probably, not just for PCTs, but all our educators. And that includes our whānau members, because they are our babies educators, our tamariki educators at the moment. It's a time of reflection, I think. It's a really good time to take stock of what we've been doing, and what we've been doing, what we are doing, and what we might do from here. We hear lots of people saying, oh, the new normal, this is the new normal. Everybody's normal is different. And I think that this time has given us the opportunity, I see it as an opportunity, given us the opportunity to stop, think about what we have done, what practice we have, what types of practices we do engage in on a daily basis, and the fact that we've had to change those up fairly quickly. And will we go back to what we did, or will we kind of see the benefits of what we've been doing and change things up for ourselves a bit? I know that in a recent episode of Kōkō Muka, Rani Mātāmua was talking about how he's taking stock of his own practices. We all know Rangi, we all know that he jet sets across the world to present his knowledge. He's an expert in his field. But his reflection, he mentioned that that he's been asking himself, he's been questioning his practice of flying all over the world. And does he need to do that? We have the luxury of technology, we have the luxury of internet. He can do that from his own home. But he also said, maybe it's time I need to do that with my own people. So it's kind of like we've been given this opportunity to sit and have a good think and reflect on what it is that's most important and how we go about doing those things that we feel are important. So as kaiako, I think it's a really interesting time. And, it's been up and down, piki heke. And there's a whakatauki that comes to mind when I think about, when things, a bit of a roller coaster, and that's he nui mauna e kore whakaneke, he nui naru moana, mā te ihu o te waka e wāhi. So it's almost like, when things get rough, when things get, when you start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, that you go and seek the support you need. Whether you're in your miru, in your bubble, you can still contact virtually somebody who can support you. And that person is the ihu of your waka, who's going to calm the waters a little bit. So yes, I think this is an opportune time for our kaiako. I think we're on this waka all together, he waka e ke noa. So my final comments would be, take it easy and remember to be good to yourself. And remember that Ako Panuku is here to support you no matter what. It's only, you only need to drop an email and somebody will respond. So yeah, kia manoa roa, kia manoa nui. And me manoa titi, we'll come out stronger for this.
And I think, I always, as someone who talks about leadership a lot, I think that we're all leaders, and as new teachers who are just beginning your journey, it could possibly be even easier for you because you haven't had years of a particular type of practice. Mm-hmm. You are beginning your journey, so this is perfect. You'll possibly be leaders in your school for this kind of pedagogy. So just back yourself that's what I want you to know, that you have everything you need to do the job you're there for. So trust yourself and go for it.
Yeah. Bye.
Ka pai. Kia ora.
Do we have any questions?
Hold on, I'll just check. I can't see any questions. No, there are no questions. And I guess if anybody has one, they can. Sorry.
No, sorry. Oh, we just had a question from Mara Manepe. And she's asking a question about in the past, Te Hapaio has been a template to follow. And is there a new template as the standards have merged and slightly changed? That's what she wants to know.
Kia ora marama mo tērā pātai. I don't think so. I don't think there's a one-fits-all template. I think whatever works best for your kura and for you, that makes the portfolio or the program easier, then go for it. From what I understand, the guidelines were being updated. I haven't seen any correspondence to say that that's complete. But yeah, Te Hapaio for our Māori medium settings has been the template. But I guess it comes down to at the end of the day, it comes down to what works for you. I would hate to say use the Ako Panuku one or use this one when Te Hapaio might be the absolute best fit for you. So yeah.
Bye. Well, tēnā korua, thank you both very much. And that's our time for today. So we hope to see you all at another webinar very, very soon. In the meantime, don't forget to make use of Te Pokapū, our COVID-19 hub on the Ako Panuku website, where we keep adding to a whole host of different resources and support for Ako Panuku teachers and leaders to make this time a little bit easier. And I think it's helped a lot. We're really thankful for the many resources that kaiako like yourselves have shared. So if you haven't yet checked it out, don't forget to do so. And just as importantly, if you have any resources or teaching materials that you are willing to share and are prepared to share with other Ako Panuku teachers and kaiako like yourselves to make teaching at a distance a little easier, please send them to us. Mā te mahi tahi ko te panuku, ko te Ako Panuku ne. And with that, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be sending a follow-up email very shortly that contains a link to an evaluation. I think there may be a booking sheet in there too. So we'd really appreciate it if you could fill that out. Heoi, mo tēnei wā, ka hiki nā tā tātou nei kōrero, ka whakairia ki ngā pātū o tō tātou whare ako a ipurangi. Noho ora mai tātou katoa, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā koe, tēnā tātou.
Ka kite.